Happy Tuesday, Run, Try, Bike, and Everyday Athlete community. Welcome to our Fireside Chat on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network, which is now on its 148th episode, which is equivalent to almost 3 years at this point, which is crazy to think about. So, with that being said, today we're going to be joined by Michelle Goldberg, who is a psychologist, ultra runner, and podcast host of the show Let's Run That Again with her co-host Heidi Baker. We're going to talk to her about a whole host of things. But before we bring her onto the show, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platforms. There is something for everybody with 9 shows under our umbrella. We have Beyond the Finish Line with Joe Harden and Running Tales with Craig Lewis, as well as our newest show, Melanin MVP with Angela Hollowell, to humorous shows about food and music. Yesterday, we had What's in Your Earbud. So make sure you check them all out. If you have an interest in any one of these shows, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review after you listen to it. So without all of that preamble and rambling and babbling on, let's bring Michelle onto the show and talk to her about how she got started in running, the journey to becoming a podcast host, as well as her upcoming events, which are numerous. Hey, Michelle, how are you?
Hi, guys. I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. So thrilled to have you on the show. We had featured your How It All Started about a year ago, last year in 2024. So it's kind of cool to, now have the audio visual portion of the written word.
I'm super excited. Thank you, guys.
No problem. If you've listened to our show ever, you know that there is a icebreaker question. You seem already prepared for it.
Yep.
Pineapple on pizza. Oh, by the way, I found out that you're a Northeasterner, so this is going to be really interesting. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
So I've thought about this a lot. And now whenever I hear about pineapple on pizza, I literally think of you guys. It always. And this is probably it might even sound like a little bit of bullshit, but I believe that if someone wants to have pineapple on pizza, that should be okay.
And that's the easy answer, though. Like, I agree with you. If you want to have pineapple on pizza, go for it. Just don't bring it to my house. Just don't put it on my plate.
See, I don't feel strongly about it. I don't mind cooked pineapple. I don't like a grilled pineapple with that char. Awesome. Yes. I would eat it on pizza. I don't choose it for my pizza, but I'm not like opposed to it.
That's a no.
I like a lot of vegetables, but like, oh my, if we were making pizza together, I would totally make you a pizza with pineapple on it, and that's okay.
and then tell you to eat it outside.
What's he doing out there?
He'll be back in a minute.
Like, I've never had a pineapple pizza with like grilled pineapple or like a charcoal-y pineapple. That could be,
that could
at least a little less. I will admit that pineapple on pizza does make the pizza soggy, so I'm not gonna
see. That's the thing. Like,
I'm not gonna contest that.
Straight out of the can, the way that some places do, and they just dump it on there, and it's very juicy. See, like we can all agree on that.
Standards.
I just remember seeing the pizza, quote unquote pizza, that Ohm was eating at the Tahoe 200. And it was, it looked awful. Like, only somebody who was, how far into the race were you there, dude?
Like 80, 90 miles. To be fair. I was 140 miles into the race.
140 miles into the race. Like, it probably tasted like heaven. It looked like shit, but it probably tasted like heaven.
It was heaven because, you got the pineapple for inflammation and carbs, and you have like sauce. And I'm obviously like, I can't handle dairy, and I got tired of their vegan cheese not melting. So I'm just sitting there with like my sauce bread with pineapple and calling it a pizza.
It is funny, like when you're so far into a race and you're so friggin' depleted, how the most basic like school lunch thing just tastes like divine, like so good.
Shout out to my newest friend, Caden S on YouTube, commented, "I don't like pineapple." Sounds good. Anyway, so we're talking about getting deep into races, and I had a whole list of questions, but let's just jump right into the training for Cocodona, because that's going to be a long distance race for you.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to talk about this. how has training been going? How has it been different than any of the training that you've done for the 100 milers, of which you've done 10 so far?
Mhm.
How has it been different? What have you learned about yourself along this journey?
So when I think about training for a race or like getting ready for a race, one thing I will say is I don't train to race. I race because I am trained. So like I'm gonna run anyway. And I guess the mindset difference for me is that I'm going to do the work. I'm going to do the running anyhow. I don't do it for a race always specifically, but I'll build and I'll add that specificity, you know, to prepare for a particular event, like the course, the distance, whatever it is. And I love that process. I love getting ready for something big, doing like a lot of big efforts, a lot of big back-to-back runs. I'll do a lot of just fun like solo 50Ks, just to go get time on feet and go on little adventures around the city. So for Cocodona, pretty much everything is leading toward that now. One thing that is different. I've started more specific like strength training, like working with a strength coach and like real weights. Yeah, not just the basic what I've always done, but like actual strength training. And I do like that does make a difference. And yeah, I mean, pretty much like the last couple races that I've done are like lead ups to Cocodona. And in the next couple of months, I'll just continue building and building a lot more elevation, a lot more strength work, adding the miles.
I'm going to make this difficult for you and remove the you cannot say the finish line. So, what's the thing you're most looking forward to compete at this event?
There is something really magical about being in the desert at different times of the day. And like, it's hard, like, it's hard to explain. And when you said that, like, I get that feeling like deep, like, it's just so incredible being in I know there are going to be highs and lows, and the lows are going to be really friggin' low, and working through the challenges, problem solving, experiencing it, sort of the bonds, and that community and the whole experience along the way. Sunsets and sunrises in the desert are just so good. Yeah.
Make sure you pack your cold gear because when that sun goes down in the desert.
So in this past year, in 2024, I crewed and paced a friend of mine from start to finish at Cocodona. And I paced probably 3 different sections of the race, maybe a total of like 55 or so miles along the course. And most of it was overnight. Like, oh my Lord, it got cold. It got so cold. So cold. Yeah.
Do you remember the sections you paced at?
The first one was Whiskey Row to Fane Ranch. So I did Whiskey Row to Iron King and then Iron King to Fane Ranch. So I got to go through the Dells, the Granite. And like talk about otherworldly beautiful. It's absolutely magnificent. Like you're just somewhere on another planet.
And seeing Mingus as you're going through, right? Like it seems so imposing.
Yeah.
As you're going through that area and it's just like, I have to go up that at some point.
Yeah. I didn't then. I will now. What was the second one? I get a couple of them confused. Might have been Munns Park to something.
That's about how the race is going to go for you.
Yeah.
I went through some part.
Yeah. Well, and some of the aid stations have really similar names. Of course, at the time, I had it totally memorized, and I will again.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, about the Dells, like I know they obviously look amazing. I was obviously not there at the same mileage, but I did do the Whiskey Basin race, so I've seen the Dells.
Oh, nice.
I cracked up at you calling them magnificent because they truly are. But every other story I've heard about the Dells is I got lost in the Dells.
Yeah. Okay, so there's that too, because you're basically like following what looks like just a random chalk line, sort of,
Mountain
you know,
biking done.
yeah, leading around. When we went through the Dells this year, coming up, you're going along the slick rock and you're tracking for that line and triple checking your GPX. There was a guy standing at the top, like not part of the race, just a local community volunteer. We come up to the top of these rocks and there's this dude standing there with what looked like a school lunch tray, and he had pickles and Twizzlers and was like, I just thought I'd come out and support the runners. And I was like, oh my, I like professed my love to him. I was like, this is the best ever.
Did you tell him he's going to be out there for at least another 2 or 3 days as the rest of the runners come flying, piling back?
It's just so cool the way the community comes out.
I mentioned that, and you talked to Om about this for your How It All Started feature, but you talked about getting started in 2013, and it was a fundraiser. So we're 11 to 12 years later. I mean, what has transpired for you with running? How has it changed you as a person to go from that, I'm registering for this, fundraiser, to now talking about running 250 miles over the course of a number of days?
Yeah. And that was a 5 mile mud run. That you started with the 5 mile mud run, right? With the
It was.
moms called the Mucktastics. I just shout that out.
Yeah. We had cool little shirts with the Mucktastics on it. I mean, wow, like, what a huge change. And like, I was older when I started running. I mean, I was 38 at that time. And I had no idea, like, didn't see any of it coming. It just, progressed and built, and probably, I would say, like, absolutely changed my life. There are certain traits that are part of who I am that lend themselves, like, sort of make me geared to, like, I'm a very hard worker. I can be very focused. I like to work hard. I like to put effort in. All of, like, those are part of who I am and have always been there. But like, leaning toward ultra running, I mean, it's just totally changed my life.
How do you incorporate ultra running into your life? Because there are hard moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we're training and racing, and we've learned to overcome those things in that world, right? How do you take the lessons you've learned and brought them into everyday life that isn't running?
It almost feels like it's just been sort of seamless. Like, there are such parallels between ultra running and everyday life. I don't know that it's even been like, oh, let me take that there and apply it here. It just, it flows. It's like all one, but it's pretty incredible. It definitely impacts me, the way that I go about things, the way that I handle challenges in day-to-day life. Like, so when I was working full-time doing a whole career thing that I no longer do, which is part of this, it'd be funny, like, coming back from like 100-mile race or some really big effort or like some really big run, and you get to work Monday morning and everybody's, I don't know, there's like random talk about this is so hard and this and that, and like, it's just like, it's no big deal. Like, we got this. Like, I don't know, it just changes your perspective on what actually is hard, and what you can handle and how you see things. It really just shifts your perspective. It's very
Yeah.
grounding, and in a really, really good way.
Yeah, agreed. I agree with that. And you mentioned the word perspective. Of- do you find that the challenges, because this is something I'm always curious about with ultra runners and their mindset. So for me personally, I find that challenges in my life aren't easier, but I do find that the way I have perspective on them and the way my shoulders are in handling them, like my shoulders are broader.
Yeah.
Like it might not even be that. It might be that you're looking at it from a different box or like a different angle because you've now had this like transcendental experience is what I would call it. So for you, like, do you find that the difficulty of those challenges is the same or different? And it's just your perspective that's changed, or how has that impacted the whole big picture for you?
I would say yes, because it's not like it's not a panacea. It doesn't solve everything. Just, I mean, like, life is still hard, and there's still a lot. It, I think you're leaning toward delusional if you start thinking that it's not. Right?
Yes.
Um, yeah, it doesn't dilute challenges in any way, but it shifts your perspective in knowing that no matter what it is, I can handle it. Like, it might suck right now, and I might feel totally and completely overwhelmed and stuck or lost or whatever it might be, but you sort of have a deeper resolve in knowing that I'll find a way through this. You know?
100%. And that's kind of the ethos for our business, right? Like we don't believe in failure, right? We believe it's a building block to success, and that gives us the
Yes.
freedom to try things, to take risks on things.
Yep.
And so I'm wondering about this idea of launching a podcast, right? The joke is, should I start a podcast? And everybody's like, no, there's a bazillion podcasts about running or ultra running or whatever the topic du jour is. But did you find like the idea that I could start this podcast with Heidi and we can be successful at it easier to say because you've gone through the trials and tribulations of training and racing for long distances? And you were like, look, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. The world will keep spinning. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, pretty much. There wasn't. It came about so organically. It wasn't even like it just happened, and all the pieces kind of came together and it flowed. Um, and there wasn't a tightly wound sort of expectation for, oh, it has to be this or it has to be that. It's like, hey, let's just give it a shot. Let's see what we can do.
I'm
Um,
going to follow up. I'm going to interrupt you because I want to
yeah,
follow up on this. So there will be people who tell you, well, you have to do things dot, 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 dot. And then there are going to be people who tell you, do the thing that makes you the happiest, right?
yeah.
What works for you guys? What works for you personally and works for you and Heidi as a team with your show?
I think more figuring out what makes us happy and what would let us sort of be true to ourselves, and trying not to get hung up. I mean, obviously you want to be open, like, we're open to feedback, like, you want to be open to feedback and maybe what people are looking for, or that type of thing, but that doesn't someone else's expectations doesn't necessarily drive the boat.
Yeah, I say this all the time, right? 50% of the people are going to like what you do, and 50% of the people are going to dislike
Totally.
what you do.
Haters are gonna hate. Like, it's just, that's how it's gonna be.
I want to ask you this question as well as Michelle. What is the best part about hosting a podcast? Michelle, I'll ask you to go first.
I think the conversations, like, oh my gosh, the conversations, and it's a lot of fun. Like, and it actually has surprised me, I think, because I didn't really, it was just kind of like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's do this. Um, it's really so much fun to get to talk to different people, and listening back to it, sometimes like I catch things that even when you're in the moment, you're having the conversation, you don't fully like process it in that moment, and being able to listen to it back that's really fun.
What would you say to that? The best part of hosting a podcast?
Having been doing this for almost 3 years now with you, I would say like just walking out of these conversations with perspectives you didn't know that you could possibly have because you talked to I've honestly walked into some conversations having like maybe not the best day myself, and I've walked out of those conversations, and Jason can attest to this too, feeling like we will be in the green room after the conversation going, dude, I feel invigorated because
Yeah.
or you just got
Yeah.
somebody else's perspective or you heard their story and what they've overcome, and it goes back to the ethos of our business, too. And I think in a sense the ethos of what you and Heidi are doing, Michelle, like of just you get to hear people's stories and you get to see this perspective that you might not have otherwise seen, and you're getting it firsthand from them, straight from the horse's mouth, not to call anybody a horse,
Yeah. Yeah.
like but like
Totally.
you're hearing it firsthand from them and seeing it, and I mean you're not just hearing it, you're feeling it, like you
Hmm.
can feel the spark and the emotion, you can see it in their eyes. And when you've done this a while, like you have like you just have like happy moments and sad moments, and you just like you live through all these emotions with
Yeah.
your guests, and I think that's my favorite part.
Yeah, for me, it's when the guest is like, "That's a really good question,"
Yeah.
because we do our shows live, right? The fact that they're like, "That's a really good question," means they're totally unprepared for it,
Right.
and they have to think about it. And the answer that you're going to get is open, honest, and vulnerable. And I just find that to be uber satisfying when we have these conversations. I love to hear somebody go, "That's a great question. I've never been asked that before." So I'm going to flip the script now. I'm going to ask Ohm first. Worst part about hosting a podcast. So Michelle, you get to think about it.
Oh man. Especially when it comes to hosting a live show, just the myriad of technical issues that we've had.
Yeah.
I remember when we had a shout out to we couldn't get Holly Ryerson on the show for 10 minutes. Well, I had to help Katra Corbett, and I had to figure out her AirPods and the meta situation for 15 minutes. Shout out to Katra. Just oh my goodness, just people like switching rooms in the middle of their shows, and none of this to say like it's really the worst thing per se, but it's just all the surprises that you'll get are
Yeah.
just hilarious, and I think you learn with experience just to take it in stride. But man, I would say if they could take away one thing from podcasts and take away all the technical issues, I can't tell you how many times when we started the show we were like, fuck meta.
Should have made t-shirts.
Yeah. Just, or maybe in your case, Michelle and Heidi, maybe like Riverside, like what is Riverside doing right now?
What about for you, Michelle? What's a topic that you and Heidi after a show you're like, God, I can't believe we have to do X now.
I mean, honestly, there hasn't really been anything. Probably one of the harder things is just like scheduling, like
Yes.
logistic, just coordinating schedules.
Yes.
But I think we've got that figured out now. We really haven't had any major issues. And yeah, I mean, there hasn't been anything really negative that I can think of.
What do you hope to get out of the podcast in the long run, right? So 11, 12 years ago, you started running and now you have a
Yeah.
podcast. So fast forward 11, 12 years, it's 2035, 2036. Where do you hope the podcast has been able to take you? Not necessarily where it is in number of downloads and all of that stuff, like counting metrics, but like where do you hope it takes you? Whether that's physically, you're doing a live show, or emotionally, spiritually. Like where do you hope the show takes you?
To be honest, I don't have any preconceived notion or like expectation or I really haven't thought about, where it would take me or what long-term goal I might have for it. I really just hope that somebody somewhere can get some value out of hearing these conversations and can listen and feel a little bit maybe less alone in how they're feeling about this. Like, what we do is hard. You have to be willing to get vulnerable, get very friggin' uncomfortable, and just take a massive risk to do the type of endurance events that we do. Like, at the same time, oh my gosh, if people would just be willing to put themselves in that position, the gains and the growth and the incredible opportunities that you can have are so boundless and are like so huge that I want everybody who has interest to do that and to give themselves the chance. And so I think by talking about like some of the air quote failures that can happen along the way, or some of the DNFs or the bumps or the struggles, to normalize those a little bit as it's just part of the growth process. I want to reduce the fear that other people might have in taking the chance. Like, does that make sense?
100%. I mean, there's a reason that we started this business. There's a reason that we decided to put together the Enduring Minds podcast, which is talking about men's mental health. And
you guys, I have listened to every single episode and it is so good. Like, it is so good. And I feel like I owe you an apology for not sharing it more, because every time I've listened to all three of yours like deeply, and it's so amazing what you're doing. Like, obviously I'm not a man, but like, we're all human.
Yeah.
Well, it's so good, and I applaud you so much for what you guys are doing.
have you seen Jerry Maguire?
Mm-hmm.
So, when Cuba Gooding is telling Roy Firestone, "You're not going to make me cry, Roy. You're not going to make me cry." It's how I feel right now. You're not going to make me cry, Michelle. You're not going to make me cry. But the point of that show, and the reason why I brought it up, is because you talked about vulnerability.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity for us, and we're going to have guests starting on Friday come on the show and be vulnerable and show that you can still have great accomplishments, even with quote unquote failures, and being vulnerable and sharing those failures and talking about them, because that's life, right?
Yeah.
Like, it also shows people to take risks, right? You took a risk to do a 5-mile mud run. You taking a risk every time you press the register button on those 100-milers. You're taking a risk training for Cocodona and going to that start line. You took a risk at Dark Anchor. You've taken a risk at Javelina, right? These are all risks that you've taken. And we can have these visions of excellence. I'm going to finish this race in X amount of time or whatever. And then, shit gets in the way, like a rolled ankle.
Yeah.
You got to use the bathroom in the middle of the woods. Like, who knows? Like, but you overcome those things and you still have success, even if you didn't PR or you didn't do X or you didn't do Y, right?
Right.
And I wonder how that helps you. And I want you to answer this question too, in getting out of your comfort zone from the first time you had to get out of your comfort zone till today. Because the first time we have to get out of our comfort zone, we are paranoid. We are filled with anxiety. We are filled with stress. We don't know what's going to happen. And even today, when we get out of our comfort zone, we still don't know what's going to happen, but we're more comfortable in that scenario. So when you look at, let's just use ultra running. When you look at an event and you're getting ready to press the register button, how are you looking at it? Are you looking at it like, I've got this? Or do you look at it as in a way of like, this is going to be hard, but I still want to do it and prove to myself that I can do hard things?
Ooh.
Right. I heard
I was gonna say mine would be, this is scary. This is scary. This tackles some of the fears that I have. And I think I'm gonna go for it. It's the reason I signed up for Javelina, because I took a big L, as we talked about it. Let's run that again with Moab.
Yeah.
And the heat really destroyed me in that race. And so I decided I want to focus this year on the heat and I want to tackle Javelina, which is one of the hottest races in the US. So whether I fail or succeed doesn't really matter to me. It's, can I put my best foot forward and give it my best shot and tackle that fear head on, and how am I going to grow from it?
Yeah, similarly, I can relate to that. And Jason, I think it's kind of a combo of what you said. For me, in making a decision to approach something or to take something on, it when it scares me and I get that feeling, but at the same time, I get this feeling out like in my core where it's like
Butterfly.
a butterfly, like a bubbly, effervescent, like it's scary, but oh God, I want to do that. Like I want to give it a shot. I think I can. Just like Cocodona is fucking scary, but I do believe I can. I do believe I can do it. It's going to be a wild ride. I'm not. I never feel like cocky confident. Like I hear people sometimes like, yeah, let's go. I'm gonna like no. But I think, part of it is like this mental training, what we do, and whether you call it training or whatever, like the process of just learning to trust yourself and believe in yourself comes from repeatedly putting yourselves in situations. And it doesn't have to be pressing register on a ginormous race. It's day-to-day life, like repeatedly putting yourself in a situation where makes you a little bit uncomfortable, like, I want to go ask somebody something, but I don't know. And then you do it anyway and you handle it really well. And it's like, okay, I got that. It's like all those little things build up and teach you that, yeah, I can handle stuff.
Go back to the yeah, I got this. Don't you have to have a little bit of, or a lot of bit of confidence though when you get there? Because if you're in a defeatist mindset, it's going to make it that much harder,
Yeah.
trying to tackle it. So you have to have some
And that's where the self-belief,
yeah.
that's where that comes from. I think it's funny. Before Dark Anchor, I always pick like an intention or sort of a mantra, but just something that I carry with me as a mental reminder into a big event. Actually, they're sitting right here. I made little flashcards for myself with those before that race because I wanted to like I had a goal for that one. But it was the notion of radical self-belief. Like that, for me, radical self-belief and thinking, like, it's kind of the idea that take the fucking logic out of it. This is radical self-belief. Don't overthink it. Don't question yourself. Like, if it's radical, just go with it. Just believe. Don't overthink it.
It's funny to think that radical is just simplifying everything, right? Like,
yeah, totally.
In today's world, if I simplify it, I'm leading a radical lifestyle. But it's true. Like we overcomplicate shit so much. It's unbelievable, right?
All the time.
What Om and I were talking earlier today, and I was like, dude, we just have to keep it simple. Yeah. And simple is literally asking for what we want.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
If we ask for, go ahead.
I say often humans are marvelously skilled at overcomplicating things. It's ridiculous. I mean, I of course I do it too. Like, but you're right. Keep it simple, like really simple. Like what is it that you're really getting at?
Right.
Keep it simple.
The simpler it is, the easier it is to execute.
Yes.
And the easier it is to execute, the faster you get to success. And then that breeds more success.
Yep.
right? When we complicate things, we have a tendency to get anxious and stressed out, and then we don't do them very well, and then we fail, and then we're like, I'm a failure and I can't go and do that, right?
Totally.
It becomes a cycle.
Spinning with it, and you just dig yourself down into like a pit of despair.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Do you have a mantra yet for Cocodona, or is that still in the works?
Oh, that's in the works. Yeah. There'll be that's going to be it's probably going to be a lot, and it's never just one, and it always changes in the middle of something.
Have you solidified crew and pacers and
I'm working on that. It is evolving. I'm very, very excited. I have a couple of maybes in the works. I just heard from a friend the other day who's definitely going to be able to come. And Heidi has talked about coming out, so that would be really cool. Working on that.
Can attest.
It's a big ask,
Yeah. I'll let you talk about that part, because you just went through a year of trying to get people to come out and pace and crew you. Talk about the importance of those things.
So important. My experience was only as good as the team that surrounded me. And I don't know that we can talk about like crude and I don't know, they call it like screwed or whatever when you're doing it solo. But like, I know that anytime I want to do a race like that, I want to be surrounded by people I trust and like have a team, not just for that, not just knowing that they have my back, but also being able to share that experience with other people, because
100%.
I've done it both ways. My first Moab, I've done it like screwed, I would call it. And you make friends along the way. But the idea of like having this team, like I will never forget Tahoe 200 for the rest of my life, simply for the fact that like I have the most amazing team, and like we were all rowing in one direction, going from A to B. And it felt like everybody was in the right place at the right time. And yeah, just being able to share that experience and create those memories is the thing that is going to stick with you forever, not how many miles you did and how your toenail was at mile 137, sauce spread you had or whatever. Like those, actually maybe the sauce spread, that story will stick, but but like the memories are what stick.
Like, when from running hundreds, and you'll learn soon enough, like you might fall, there's going to be dirt and grime and sweat and snot probably. And watching him put his hands into this thing, I was like, just thinking to myself, like, only an ultra runner would do this. Like, there's no human being on the planet who doesn't run ultras who would think, yeah, I would eat that. Like, it looked terrible.
There was, admittedly, there was like sauce. My legs were like covered in red sauce and like dirt.
I was like, I am not. If this is what they're serving me at the aid stations, I'm going to go hungry, because I'm not doing that. So let's stay on the topic of food for a moment. Have you ever had a time when you're racing one of these 100-milers that you've done where you're like, I would just kill for X? Has there been like something that you've just had a mad hankering for?
Oh God, I'm trying to think. There was something the other day during Black Canyon, and I can't remember what it was. But absolutely. And yeah, I mean, it could be the most random thing, like stuff that I don't eat in my like day-to-day life. And during Dark Anchor, I remember for like hours, I wanted a Reese's peanut butter cup so bad. I don't like, that's like, and eventually like late in the middle of the night, I came into the aid station and they had the little ones, and I was over the moon. Like, it was so good. And it's a dumb, stupid little tiny Reese's peanut butter cup, but it was like,
no, that's like heaven. Like heaven at that point. I would have looked like Alvin the chipmunk. I would have put them all in there. Just had them face full of those little mini ones. It's funny you mentioned the mini ones because I'm thinking, as you mentioned, I'm like, well, you have the regular one, you have the mini one, you have the Take 5.
Right?
You got the one with the Reese's Pieces in the middle of it, pretzels. Like, I was like,
All
what
the
was she
stuff.
actually looking for? Was it like just a normal everyday one, or was it the white chocolate one, or was it the dark chocolate one?
I wanted like I wanted the minis.
The minis.
And they
So how
had
do you
it,
eat
made me
the? How do you
happy.
eat the mini? Like an aspirin, or do you bite it?
You mean like swallow it whole?
Well, no, throw it in your mouth and chew it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
but you
Yeah,
don't
no.
bite it. You don't like
We're
break
not
it.
taking dainty bites. No.
Mm,
It's go no.
no dainty bites in this house, especially
No.
not when you're in an ultra.
I want it all.
When I got to Whiskey Row, I remember telling my crew chief, I was like, please make sure that there are Impossible Whoppers and Klondike bars when I get there. Like that was the only thing I wanted. And the running joke for the next 3 or 4 days or whatever the hell the time frame was the commercial, what would you do for a Klondike bar? And the answer was run 250 miles in the desert. Like I would do that for a Klondike bar.
Dude, you could have. I mean, that's a sponsorship opportunity right there.
Klondike, if you're listening, come on
Come on
board.
now.
Talk to us a little bit about Dark Anchor, because then we'll go back to our rapid fire food questions. Talk to us a little bit about Dark Anchor, confidence builder, lessons learned, why that race of all the races that you have the opportunity to attend.
Yeah. So Dark Anchor 34-hour. It is a timed race with a 3.5-mile trail loop in Savannah, Georgia, in Wormslow State Park. It's beautiful. It's actually, so the park where they have the race is, the scene in Forrest Gump when he's a little kid and has the leg braces,
Yes.
and the bullies are after him, and Jenny's like, "Run, Forrest, run!" And he takes off in the braces. That scene was filmed in this park, in those gorgeous oak trees that he's like running up the dirt road. That's part of this course. It's really cool. So I wanted to do it for a couple different reasons. One, the 34-hour timed format, I wanted a longer duration of time. I wanted to run all day, all night, and then into a second day. Specifically, my goal was to take a nap during the race. I wanted to practice napping during the race and then keep going. So that it was the long duration of time that really attracted me for that. But also it was in Savannah, Georgia, which is where my co-host for the podcast, Heidi Baker, lives. And she wanted to run it as what would become her first 100-miler finish. So it was like, all right, we're going to do this. So that was a big part of it too.
You're getting a little choked up about it. Why?
So
Why?
Oh my gosh. So Heidi, and you come listen to our show because we've totally talked about this. Heidi had attempted the 100-mile distance twice before and didn't make it. So this was her third attempt, and she really, really wanted to get it, really wanted that finish. And she was ready. She's totally ready. So yeah, I was like, I'm going to do whatever I can to help, or at least just be there in that process.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, those photos were, oh.
You guys, when she finished, oh my, I can't even, it was so good. So good. It was so cool. And we got to share some miles on the course. We saw each other. We didn't, obviously we didn't stay together the whole time, but my last loop was it was a point when she was really struggling and she still had maybe 10 miles to go. And it was just feeling really, really far away and really hard for her. And so we got to share that and kind of pull through that. And I finished, and then she finished and got her buckle.
That it speaks volumes to the power of the community that we have here in ultra running. And I know you and Heidi are obviously co-hosts of a show together, and so there's a tighter bond there than most. But the reality is that's what these events do for us, right? They bring us closer to people in a myriad of ways that it's like, holy crap, this is so damn cool that we're doing this.
Yeah.
Speaking of technical difficulties, this is one of those right now.
How do you look it now, Jason?
Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead, Heidi. You were saying, Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, it's so amazing just to watch someone, you know, whether it's her, like, and people during a race just you see how hard it is, and you see how much it takes, like, every ounce of their being just to keep going, and you watch them fight through and persevere, and the grit and the determination that you can witness. I mean, dude, go to any friggin' ultra. If you don't see that, if you don't notice it, then, like, you're not looking, because it is there, and it's beautiful. Yeah, it's very powerful.
Give us the details of where people can find your podcast, the name of it, how often it comes out, all the good stuff. Where can people find you and Heidi on your podcast?
So the show is Let's Run That Again, and we are on Instagram. We have a page on Instagram. We're on all the usual podcast listening places. Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. We're on YouTube. I think, like, Amazon Podcasts too. Podbean, like, all the usual channels. Yeah, check us out if you're interested in coming to join us on the show. Reach out through Instagram. Yeah, it's just really fun.
Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review to their show and wherever you get your podcasts. So you ready for, I guess this would be my favorite part of hosting a podcast, which is I get to talk about food. We call these rapid fire food questions, but they're really not rapid fire. Feel free to take your time to answer them. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oreos, OG Oreos, double stuff Oreos, thin Oreos, or Cakester Oreos?
Okay, no Cakester. That's a little weird. Double stuff is a little bit too much. So I like the OG size. And until this past weekend, I would have said OG original flavor. However, post Malone Oreos,
yes,
holy shit. Oh my God, they're so good.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
So for Black Anchor, or no, oh my God, where am I?
Dark Anchor.
Black Canyon, which I just ran a couple days ago, and my brain is still fried. I think I'm still half asleep I got back from Arizona late last night. For Black Canyon 100K, we picked up a package of the Post Oreos. Whoa. First of all, they smell amazing, and they're so good. They're so good.
So should I call Oreo, because I came up with the Oreo 100, and I need them to be a sponsor. And if Oreo, if you're listening, and I will tag you in this, the Oreo 100 starts in Oceanside, California, goes to Redondo Beach, so O for Oceanside, RE for Redondo, and finishes at the Pacific Ocean. Oh, the Oreo 100. Let's make it happen. Sponsor the event. Yes. See,
Jason, I am there. 5,000%. I am there. But you have to, like, there need to be sort of games at the aid station.
Yes, 100%.
Like, you know, like, do the thing where you put it on your forehead and you have to get it into your mouth without using your hand. Could you imagine that we'd be, like, all sweaty? Talk about gross. Like,
how many minis can you
roll
shovel?
Down the salt. It'll, like, collect the salt off my face.
Ultra.
How many minis can you shovel in at one time? Absolutely. We're doing it all. Let's do it, Oreo.
Oreo.
Licorice, red or black?
Ooh, red.
Red Vines or Twizzlers?
So I used to really like Twizzlers. Recently, they're a little waxy. Oh, how about nibs?
Oh, very good call. Very good call. Before I go to the next one, shout out to Snuggly Viking. He said, I legit got misty when I was following Heidi's journey at the race and watching her recaps on social because it felt like I got to be there with her and she was so happy to finish. So that's awesome. Again, power of the community.
That's shout out to Snuggly Viking, who is Albie Day,
Yep.
who is so awesome. He ran Black Canyon this weekend too.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Back to the hard hitting journalist questions we like to ask. Peeps. Are Peeps a real candy or are they just doorstops covered in glitter?
Peeps are so unique. It's a very unique product because they can be both. They are a real candy. Yes, they're better when they're a little bit stale. But like, dude, you can make some artwork out of Peeps. Legit. Okay, I'm not even lying. You want to hear a funny story? When I was working on my doctorate at Penn, it's a very serious place. Like people take things very seriously. And at Easter time, I got Peeps, and I took a toothpick and I made a little sign, and I wrote "Peep Show" on it, and I like put it up in the windowsill in the stairway of our building. It was there for like a day or so, and then it disappeared. But
somebody ate the stale peep.
The Peep Show peep.
You thought she was going to tell us about peep jousting?
Yeah.
I thought we were headed there too. We've done 148 shows. We've only heard that one. So I was like, oh my goodness, we've got a second peep jouster. Do you know what that is, Michelle?
No.
So you put the toothpicks in the beaks and then you put them in the microwave and they expand. And so they're, knocking their toothpick swords against each other.
That is also brilliant. That's pretty good.
That's it. That's the real.
Welcome to the Fireside Chat brought to you by Run Dry Bike. Candy corn. Is candy corn a real candy or is it just earwax covered in sugar?
It is a real candy.
Oh boy.
I know, but it is. It is a real candy. Candy corn, not the big giant pumpkins. That's a little too much. Like, you got to dial it in a little bit. And I do prefer the old school original candy corn. I don't like the ones with the chocolate. It's a little weird.
It's just orange and white, and yellow.
Yeah.
Grandma's candy jar. She's got the strawberry pack hard candy. She's got the butterscotch hard candy, and she's got the peppermint hard candy. Which one are you taking?
I'm taking the strawberry because I regularly have a stock of the butterscotch hard candies. And literally, like, that is one of my favorite things during a run.
Butterscotch?
I specifically buy them for running. Like, and it started because I built like a company I used to work for. The woman at the front desk had the grandma's candy jar, and I would take the butterscotch hard candies. And somehow it just became like a go-to for runs for me.
Are you a Werther's or a Brock's butterscotch candy?
No, Brock's. Werther's is not the same. Yeah, it's the Brock's. It's the yellow ones. Yeah.
We have found the butterscotch expert in our community. I love it. Creamy or crunchy peanut butter?
Creamy.
How do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Do you put peanut butter on one side of the bread and jelly on the other and smash them together? Or do you put peanut butter and jelly on the same slice of bread and then fold over the top?
I was absolutely fascinated by the conversation that you guys had with Corey Waltering about this. Because I think Jason, that was when you revealed your peanut butter sandwich making methods. And I was like, what? No, peanut butter on one side, jelly on the other side, and then you put them together.
Nope, all on one slice of bread and then fold it over. Are you a rectangle person, a triangle person, 4 squares, or 4 triangles?
Okay. If it's a day-to-day peanut butter and jelly, not like during a run, then it's diagonal. Okay. But peanut butter and jelly is like a go-to for a long run.
Yep.
In which case I cut them in cute little squares. I'll cut it in 4 because 2 of the square pieces fit in the snack side Ziploc bags.
Yep.
So like for a 100-mile race, and like anyone who's ever crewed me or come along for one of these has seen the process. I'll get a whole loaf of bread and I make all my little baby sandwiches, and I put like, I'll have like a whole bunch of little snack size Ziploc bags with the little tiny squares, and I'll just have them shoved in everywhere. And whenever, if I have crew there, like, or if it's a looped race, of course they're in one spot, but yeah, they fit in your pack easily, but the diagonal cut you can't fit in a Ziploc bag like that.
Do you, when you cut them in your 4 little tiny squares, do you eat them pinkies up because they're now finger sandwiches? Got to get fancy
Just
out
by
here.
the fistful. Just
Yes, like the little peanut butter Reese's cups. Just toss them all in there. Red velvet.
But I do like a diagonal cut sandwich.
Champion. It's the champion way to cut a sandwich is on a diagonal, so that you can get that little angle in there and get as much surface area into your face hole as possible.
Totally true.
Red velvet cake. Is red velvet a real flavor, or is it just chocolate cake dressed up to go to the prom?
It is a dressed up cake, but it's sort of fascinating to me.
Why?
Because why do they even do that if it doesn't taste like anything different? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
You know, there's a whole host of bakers out there right now, and I don't mean Heidi, who are like, look here, MFer, we got to put the alkalized cocoa in there, and there's the cream cheese frosting. And it's like, look, we get it. We're just having fun, people. Don't send us an email. Favorite flavor of ice cream is?
That is such a tough one. Maybe like a mint chocolate chip or cookies and cream. Probably. So when I was a kid, my first job was I worked at Baskin Robbins for like 2 years, and you would get to have like a cup of ice cream for each shift, and I would routinely get little tiny bits of like all the flavors and make it into my one scoop because it's too hard to choose.
Were you the kid at 7-Eleven with the Slurpees and pulling all of them into one? You were.
Or like if you go to here Wawa coffee, like I'll mix them together sometimes. It's like self-serve coffee, right? So I'll do like a little bit of hazelnut, a little Colombian, a little dark. Yeah.
So I got to go to our Instagram commentary because there is a running conversation between Albie and Joe. Albie has said, to quote Lewis Black, they made one batch of candy corn in the 1950s, and every year they go around and fish it out of people's garbage cans, wash it, and resell it the next year. He commented on the geniuses at Black Canyon this past weekend, individually wrapping the peanut butter sandwiches so that they never got stale.
Yes.
And he did mention the Taco Bell 50K, of which Joe seems to be extremely intrigued by and wants to participate in. Although, like, I can get behind the Oreo 100, the Taco Bell 50K.
I'm sorry, you could not pay me. No.
But we'd eat burritos like nobody's business on a regular run course anyway. So maybe. All right, I'm gonna have to eliminate the Reese's minis from this question. So you have to come up with a second one if this is a different answer. Favorite candy bar or favorite candy in general?
Favorite candy bar, I really like Twix.
Yes,
Twix is a really good one.
Which one, left or right?
Why do they do that? I don't understand.
It's the hard-hitting journalism right here. We just stumped her. It's like it's the same thing, you dipshit.
Exactly. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Chocolate chip or oatmeal raisin?
Shoo, that is really tough. During a race, one of the things that I sometimes crave is a really good chocolate chip cookie.
Like a Chips Ahoy, like it's a little hard, or like
No, I
fresh
want
baked?
like from like a bakery, from like the local coffee shop, like this is my fantasy, like that somebody will show up with like one of those really good fresh baked like gigantic cookies from the local bakery or coffee shop or whatever. It doesn't usually happen, but
Maybe we can get the Mrs. Fields 100 going.
oh yeah. But oatmeal chocolate chip is also a really good thing.
Yeah,
See,
it's hard.
I like to combine the
Clearly.
things.
Pop-Tarts, frosted or unfrosted?
Frosted.
The only way. Like
Yeah.
I love Pop-Tarts, but I couldn't imagine eating cardboard because that's what the unfrosted is like.
It's not right. Yeah.
Favorite flavor of Pop-Tart?
Either strawberry or brown sugar cinnamon. At Black Canyon, I did eat two of the foil packet, like, with two in each one.
Yeah.
So I had a total of 4 Pop-Tarts during my
Nice.
Black Canyon 100K.
Did you see they have a licensing agreement with the Girl Scout cookies? So there are Thin Mint Pop-Tarts, and there are they're the samosas, but they call them coconut something or other. But they're out there too nowadays. So I have to go on a hunt to find these Girl Scout Pop-Tarts.
I am curious about that. If it's going to be like is it going to be a chocolate pastry with a mint flavor filling? What is that?
I will let you know when I find them.
Dude, at Black Canyon, I was running into Bumblebee Ranch, which is
Yes.
one of the aid stations. And I was coming in, and there was the people are, how they cheer for you and you're coming in, and there was some woman off to the side with a box of Girl Scout Thin Mint cookies, and she was like, "Oh, would anyone like a cookie?" And I had gone past already. I turned around and I went back, and I was like, "Yes,
I'll take the whole sleeve. Thank you very much." All right, last question for you before we let you go. It's late on the East Coast. Tray of brownies is out on the counter. Michelle is going for the corner, the middle edge, or the middle of the entire tray.
Oh, not the middle of the entire tray. It's somewhere on the edge. Yeah, it's a toss up between the corner. It's got to be an edge, the outer part. I like the crunchy outer part.
And you need something to hold on to.
Yeah. I don't understand the middle gooey part.
Me neither. I'll eat it, but I'll do it begrudgingly. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us on our Fireside Chat today. It has been a blast. For those of you who are joining us late, go check her and Heidi's podcast out. Let's run that again. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. We will be back here next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you for joining us. Without you as our community support, none of this ever happens. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, guys.